Hey guys, it's Bear. It is Thursday, October 24th, 2019, and I was talking to a friend online recently. He had some questions about some practices in Judaism that he wasn't familiar with, including tefillin and like daily prayer. His rabbi's not big on doing tefillin, and he doesn't have access to a rabbi that knows how to do it, that could teach him. And so I was like, well, I can teach you. And we never really were able to coordinate a time that both of us could talk via video, because obviously you can't just like explain it via text. It's a visual thing. So I figured, I'd just do a video and go ahead and send it to him. I don't know if I'll post this online or not. We'll see. So as far as the practice of tefillin, this is, just like everything else in Judaism, there are many different ways to go about doing it. There's no like really right or wrong way. There's lots of opinions on it, and you can do your own research on all of that. I've certainly researched it quite a bit. It was really important for me to learn tefillin because I came from this Orthodox background where only men were allowed to do it. And obviously before I transitioned to male, I was living as a female, and so I wasn't allowed to do it. I also wasn't allowed to do it because I hadn't finished my conversion yet. And so when I came back to my conversion through a Reform rabbi, I was like, I really want to learn some of these things that I wasn't allowed to do. Now, Reform Jews aren't necessarily big on wearing tefillin. Reform is all about what works for you, what's meaningful for you, and it's not meaningful for everybody, and a lot of Reform Jews don't do it. So for me, I was like, I really want to learn how to do tefillin. I actually ended up going over to a conservative rabbi and learning how he does it. So I was really lucky to have that resource. Not everybody has that. So yeah, that's why it was important to me. The whole tefillin ritual is really kind of interesting. It's very mystical. There's a lot of opinions about it. Really fascinating stuff. I've researched this a lot. But basically what it is tefillah means prayer, tefillin is the plural of that, and they're kind of known as like prayer aids, like to aid yourself in getting into the mind space of prayer. They're typically put on during the morning prayers, or like at home by yourself in the morning. And it comes from 4 verses, 2 from Exodus, 2 from Deuteronomy, those being the verses that we recite when we say the Shema. And basically they all 4 say something like, you shall bind them or wear them as a sign on your hand and your arm, and wear them as a symbol between your eyes. And there's some really cool stuff about that in the mystic literature that says, you're talking about your mind, your emotions, and your actions. These should all be things that are for God in some way. You should be using your mind, your actions, and your emotions in some way for godliness, whatever that means for you. So we're putting them on our head, symbolizing the mind, our arm near the heart to symbolize your emotions, and you're binding them on your arm and your hand to symbolize action. So I think that's kind of cool. I also did some research on the etymology of totafot, which is really fascinating stuff. I could talk about this for like easily an hour, just like the whole ritual of tefillin and all the interesting things about it. But totafot isn't translated in the Shema in many cases, and there's like, what is this word? Some people, some Siddur translate it as a symbol, some translate it as literally tefillin, and some translate it as like an amulet. I have like a bunch of different Siddurs that talk about that. So totafot isn't actually a Hebrew word. It's like kind of borrowed from another language, and there's all sorts of like interesting stuff on where that word comes from. I'll just link it so you can read about it, so I can stop talking about it. So as far as the actual actions of putting on your tefillin, you would first put on your talit, But for the purpose of the video, because the talit kind of gets in the way of showing things, I'm not going to do that. I'm also already wearing a talit because I wear the smaller one under my shirt when I can. So you would do that first, and that is on the page directly before how to put on tefillin in your prayer book. I'm using the Mishkan Tefillah, so it's on page 26 for the talit and page 28 for the tefillin. So your tefillin come in a really simple bag. It's kind of interesting, like talit bags tend to be really kind of ornate, and the tefillin bag is almost always the same exact thing. It's really, really simple. And you want to put them in there in the order that you're going to take them out. And you want to take out only one at a time, because it's important not to skip over one mitzvah or one action for another. So you put them in a certain order, and you take them out in a certain order. You're going to put on the shel yad first, and that's the one for the hand. My tefillin are kind of a less expensive set. There are some sets that have a really protective box that goes over this whole thing. Mine does not. I got mine subsidized by a synagogue in Chicago. They paid like I think they paid like 50%, and then I paid the other 50%. So you want to make sure that this touches your arm and that your sleeve is not in the way. So you want to roll up your sleeve if you're wearing a longer sleeve. Alright, so that's the only box that mine has. It just goes over the actual box. Inside the boxes, by the way, are the verses that command us to put on tefillin. So it's got the box that actually houses the scrolls, and then it's got this leather strap. It's got the rougher leather on one side and a smoother, shiny leather on this side. It's got the knot that holds the strap to the box, and then it's got a simple loop right here. Interesting backstory to how I put on my tefillin. I borrowed my rabbi's set, and he had a Sephardic set that he bought in Israel, and it was actually kind of confusing trying to learn how to put them on, because they were like, this is backwards. Why is this backwards? Okay, so it's a Sephardic set. And so the Sephardic, they wrap theirs in a certain direction. The Ashkenaz wrap it the other direction. Well, I learned on a Sephardic set, and now I have an Ashkenaz set, and I still wrap it the same way. It's just like you got to cinch the loop a little bit different. That's fine. So once you start putting on tefillin, it's important that you have your intentions kind of clear and you're focused, and you wouldn't actually talk during the process, but this is obviously instruction, so it doesn't count. So you put it on your arm, you get it kind of tight, and you want it to face towards your heart, all right? Because you want to bind this as a sign on your hand and on your heart, right? So we get the loop on, and as we cinch it, we say the blessing, and it goes, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chaniach tefillin. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to wind the tefillin. Then you cinch it, and you wrap it once around your bicep just to secure it. Right? Then we wrap 7 times around the arm. The 7 times, again, is really, really interesting. 7 is a big number in Judaism and in Jewish mysticism. So in mysticism, they say that there are 7 primary emotions, and again, this is an emotional symbol that we're doing here. Also, at a wedding, there are 7 blessings. The bride circles, in some customs, the bride circles the groom 7 times. So 7 is a big number in Judaism and in other religions. So at this point, you kind of just count quietly to yourself, to make sure that you're getting 7 wraps around the arm. And again, I do mine the Sephardic style, so I go this way. Ashkenaz tend to go the other way. So if you get a set and you're noticing you're going the other way, that's fine. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Some say that 8 is good. Some say 6 is good. As long as you're kind of in there, you're fine. Again, every 2 Jews, 3 opinions, right? When we get to the hand, here we just take a break from the arm tefillin, so we wrap it around the hand to just sort of not have it like dangling and coming loose, right? And you just secure it very loosely. Then we go to the head, or the shell rosh. Skipping back a second, you want to put this on your weaker arm. So most people are right-handed, so most people will wear it on their left arm. If you're left-handed, you would put it on your right arm. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. One that I found really interesting was that you are talking about binding or writing these words upon your arm and your heart, and you would write with your dominant hand, so that you would be writing these on you with your dominant hand. There's all sorts of other explanations too. So then we go to the shell rosh, which mine came a little bit unwrapped coming out of the bag. All right, so it looks like this. It has 2 straps on it, right? So, side note, it's important not to let holy things hit the ground. So I've got a chair right here that I kind of let the wrappings rest on, right? Take off the protective box, and then you've got the large loop that goes around your head. All right, so this goes on. If you've got a bigger kippah, or if you wear a kippah, you want this not to rest on your kippah. You want this to rest, everything should be touching your body. It should go just at or above your hairline, all right? The back knot should go just below. There's like a ridge to your skull. It should go just below that and above your hairline. And then as we bring the straps forward and rest them, we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvot tefillin, which means, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments, commanding us concerning tefillin. And then as you bring these straps forward and smooth them out so the shiny side is forward, you say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, which is, blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. So that's the head. All right. And then we go back to the hand. At this point, you unwrap everything you did with your hand, right? So that you're just left with the arm. And then we come around the hand and go to the fingers. Again, you can look up a bunch of different videos on this. This is how I do mine. This is how I was taught. And there's a lot of different ways to do the hand and the fingers and everything like that. Some people don't say anything when they do the hand and the fingers. Some people do. I like it. So as we do the finger, the fingers represent the loving, tefillin in general represent the loving relationship we have with God. And wrapping around the fingers, some people interpret that as being very similar to the ring that we would give our betrothed at a wedding. So the verses that you would say as you do this, as you wrap around the fingers, are Varastich li leolam, right? I betroth you to me forever. Varastich li betzedek uvmishpat vechesed uvrachamim. I will betroth you unto me in righteousness and in justice, in kindness and in mercy. Varastich li be'emunah v'yadat et Adonai. And I will betroth you to myself in faithfulness, and you shall know Adonai. Right? So I go around the middle finger at the front of the digit, the middle finger towards the back of the digit, and then I go around both the middle and the ring finger. Then I come back up to the hand, and I make my shin. Right? So for everybody watching on the video, it's upside down to you, but it's right side up to me. You see the shin there in the middle? And what you're doing there is also kind of cool, because you're spelling out Shin Daled Yud, which spells one of the names of God. So you get the shin finished, and then you just kind of tuck your strap again through your palm, so that as you're davening, you're not distracted by your strap coming loose and stuff like that, because you should be focused on your prayers. So after you get all of this on is when you would go into your morning prayers. So you can see my shin, and then my dalid and my yud. Again, I learned this on a different set of tefillin, and what's really interesting is when I got the Ashkenaz set and attempted to do it the other way, my shin still faced this way. So Ashkenaz Jews and Sephardic Jews, their shin will face different ways. Somehow I consistently get my shin to look like this, and I was like worried about it, and people were like, it's not a big deal. You know, like this does not have to be like done a kosher way. It has to be done a way that like has meaning for you. There's also people will say that you can see certain things spelled out on the underside of the hand. I don't know how to do that. So that's getting your tefillin on. Right now this is a little bit loose, but as you're moving and going about doing your prayers, which takes, if you're in service, it takes about 45 minutes. This will actually tighten up on you a little bit. If you don't like that it's a little bit loose, you can kind of get your finger under there and go around, and this will tighten things up. You get to the hand and you just kind of like, you know, tuck it in there and it will hold a little bit tighter. But again, this will tighten up as you're going through your prayers. The longer you have it on, the more this will make little marks against your arm, which fade over the course of about an hour after your prayers. And again, I really like that. I like that you have this reminder of the fact that you went through and you did that mitzvah that day. So that's getting your tefillin on. I'm going to stop the video and then restart it and go through the morning prayers that I do, and finish up by probably showing you how to take these off, rewrap them, and put them back in the bag.